There we go. Okay. So this talk is going to be about artificial intelligence in the real world, real AI, and how it might impact the future of the planet. But I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about my book and artificial intelligence in fiction. So Eliezer Yudkowsky, who is the founding author of Less Wrong, a primary man in the artificial intelligence movement community and also the rationality community, is not very likely to praise things, but of Crystal Society he wrote, "It seems to belong in the very, very tiny subset of AI stories that are not bloody stupid, a heroic and almost unbelievable accomplishment." He, like I, has a lot of frustration around the sort of stories that we tell about artificial intelligence in society. And a lot of people have commented that the AI depicted in my book seems to them like AI done right. And so the primary character, the protagonist and the narrator of my book, is actually an artificial intelligence. So it's told from the perspective of an AI whose name is Face. And Face is one of many artificial intelligences that collectively run a robot named Socrates. Now, Face's job in this society of AIs is to interface with, interact with, and understand humans. So the book's primary, interest is in getting to see humanity through the artificial perspective. And I'm going to start off with the presentation tonight with just a reading from my book. There aren't really any spoilers here, but the context is that Socrates is being interviewed by one of the scientists at the university where the robot was constructed. And the AIs recently killed one of their fellow AIs, another one named Sacrifice, and they're basically trying to make sure that the human that is talking to them doesn't understand that they did this. "I am aware that artificial intelligence is a controversial subject, Mr. Meriden." The honorific was automatic, and I could see him sneer for a split second upon hearing it. This is the robot speaking. "Nothing to do but go past it. I have read some of the debate on the web." "Then tell me," began the human, "are you familiar with this question? If you are told to bake bread, and you know that by doing so you'll outcompete all human bakers and thus ruin their livelihoods, would you bake bread?" I considered it for a moment. The answer was that we would very likely bake the bread. That's what Sacrifice would do, and it was of vital importance to appear as though Sacrifice was still alive. But I didn't have to answer truthfully. The question was really mine to answer, as the others, here this is the other AIs in the society, were distracted. And these are Face's thoughts here. I should choose the answer which would lead to Meriden, who is the name of the scientist, trusting me more and telling me more about himself. What answer does Meriden want to hear? I simply didn't know enough about the man to say. After thinking for a moment more, I had Body, that's Socrates, say, "What would you do in that circumstance?" "No." I was confused again. This conversation was highly irregular. "What?" I asked through Body. "You are not to ask me any questions for the next hour." The command was firm and remarkably drawn out, considering the man's normal conversation speed. I couldn't help but feel a pain of slipping away from the purpose. Meriden was not treating us as a student, like Dr. Naresh would, or as an equal, like Zephyr would, but instead as a machine. Meriden saw past the facade of the humanoid face and limbs of Body. He saw that we were, at heart, programs of complex logic running on a crystalline supercomputer. So that's just a small excerpt. Lots of people have given it very good reviews. This is some of the stuff that people have said online. It has 4.5 stars, actually slightly above that, on Amazon.com and Goodreads. Everybody in the rationality community seems to love it. They seem to think that this is AI plus rationality plus a very good story and lots of other stuff too. So Crystal Society is out now on the web. It is one of 3 books, a series. Crystal Mentality, the second book, is being edited right now. It should be out later this year. Crystal Eternity, which is the final book, is being written. I just finished chapter 2 earlier this couple days ago, and that will be out in 2017. You can search for Amazon for Crystal Society, or you lucky audience members can go to crystal.rayleafman.com. This is my website, and you can get a copy for free or read it online. And I'll have that URL at the end of the talk as well. Okay, so plug book, check. I'm here to talk about AI in the real world, right? And as much as I love my book and I want you to all read my book and give it good reviews on Amazon and yay my book and that sort of thing, fiction really isn't the best place to learn about AI. I wrote Crystal Society because I was thinking about AI all the time, because it fascinates me. It wasn't like I decided, oh, what would be cool to write about? I'll write about AI, and then I started thinking about AI. I have a history doing research into AI. I'm familiar with big names in the field, and I've done a decent amount of study about this. And the problem with fiction is that fiction has the constraints of you have to tell a good story. Okay? You're very unlikely to read fiction that has something like a boring political discussion about what sort of regulation to impose on some group or so on and so forth, or about the arcane mathematics and difficult scientific concepts involved in making some sort of breakthrough. These are the things which are actually probably going to decide how the world goes, but they don't make very good stories. And similarly, if things do happen, bad things or good things or whatever, it's not, these things aren't necessarily going to be shaped by what's most interesting or fun. The world isn't going to be saved by a time-traveling rogue bandit wizard freedom fighter, right? That's just ordinary people doing ordinary things is what governs the shape of the world. And in reality, things don't have to be, they don't have to defuse the bomb at the last second. Sometimes the bomb just blows up, and sometimes no one has a chance in the first place, and things were doomed from the start. We as rationalists can and should be able to appreciate the distinction between AI in fiction and AI in reality, and understand that this is will give us a certain sort of bias when thinking about AI. Another kind of bias comes from the fact that our gut intuition, our sense of how the world works, is going to be very bad at reasoning about AI for one major reason. This is where our intuition evolved. Our ability to reason about other minds and things like that was shaped in the ancestral savanna. And I don't know if anything strikes you about this photo, but I noticed the distinct lack of robots. AI and artificial intelligence and robotics and advanced technology is simply absent from the ancestral environment. Evolution did not code us with the ability to reason about abstract minds that might be coded with a certain principle or a certain way of thinking about the world. And as a result, we need to employ our best rationality, our best ability to think and reason about the things involved without having to rely on our intuition or our gut sense of the situation. This is what I think has led to a lot of failures of thinking about AI in fiction, is we tend to say, oh, what's a robot going to be like? And then we tend to rely on our intuition and say, oh, it's going to be something like a human, except, maybe weird, right? Maybe something that's close, to something natural, but makes us feel a little bit strange. When in fact, we can reason about the types of AI more effectively using things like mathematics and that sort of stuff. Okay. So if you do want to learn about AI, and you don't want to just go and pick up an AI textbook and dive into the field, and you want just like one source, I would recommend Superintelligence, Paths, Dangers, and Strategies by Nick Bostrom. This is a very good book, nonfiction about AI in the real world. So if you're interested at the end of this talk in learning more, I recommend going and reading Superintelligence. A lot of the concepts which I'll be talking about tonight are in this book. Okay, so this talk has 3 parts, not counting the book plugging that I just did. After I get through all these parts, then we can have a Q&A and some just general discussion about AI. But until then, I suggest holding your comments. So the first section, the first part of this talk, is what the heck is an AI? What do we mean when we're talking about artificial intelligence and that sort of stuff. And the second one is the growth and the future of AI and how it's going to change or impact the planet, or how we can expect it to. And the third is about the risks and dangers of AI. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions? This is one of the points where I'm going to pause about my book or about the structure of the talk or anything like that before I launch into the content.
Can you define AI?
Well, yeah, we'll be getting into that in the what the heck? Yeah, Carl. Anybody? Okay. So what the heck is an AI, right? What do we mean when we're talking about artificial intelligence? So this is a big field. AI has been around since the 60s or further, and lots of people are interested in artificial intelligence, but there's not actually a lot of agreement as to what it means for something to be an artificial intelligence. 2 prominent researchers went around and asked people, what does intelligence mean across various fields and things like that? And they came up with a list of over 70 different definitions of intelligence. So what the heck is intelligence, right? What are we talking about? We kind of know what it means to be artificial. We built it, okay? But what does it mean for something to be intelligent? And there are lots of good answers to this question. I'm not going to say that the definition that I'm going to be using for this talk is the only one or the best one. But for this presentation, I'm going to say that intelligence is the ability to solve problems. So given some sort of problem, and given some sort of selection of tools and physical capabilities, you can compare 2 different minds or 2 different strategies for solving these problems and say, which of these solves that problem better? The one that solves it better is the one that's more intelligent. So let me give you an example. I think a good example of a problem is checkers or drafts. So in the mid-20th century, a man named Arthur Samuel is widely credited as having created the first learning machine. He created a machine that plays checkers, and he coded this machine on a computer such that it did not have any it had a conception of how checkers worked. It had a ability to simulate games of checkers and reason about how the pieces would move. And he also exposed the machine to a number of games, like a whole bunch of checkers games played by people who knew how to play checkers. But importantly, he didn't tell it how to play checkers well. He just said, this is the game of checkers, come up with some sort of strategy. And doing so, the machine, because it was coded well, and came up with, it became a fairly competent checkers player. Soon, that machine was capable of beating Arthur Samuel himself. And so without having given it any knowledge about how to play checkers well, per se, it gave it just examples of checkers, the machine was able to learn and overturn its master, right? Another good example of a problem is, let's say I give you some random string of characters, some arbitrary string of characters. I want you to return information which is relevant to that according to some arbitrary standard. So like I say, how many moons are there around Jupiter? And you give me some sort of answer. As long as you can say whether or not that's a good answer or a bad answer, that's a problem domain, and it's a domain which you can employ intelligence. So, yeah. So, the Samuel's Checkers AI and Google are both examples of artificial intelligences. These are programs which are capable of doing well on certain problem domains. You give this AI checkers, it will play checkers very well. It will succeed at this problem very well. Give Google a random query and it gives you a pretty sensible answer. But importantly, if you give Google a checkers board, or if you give a checkers AI some arbitrary string, neither one will really be able to give you any good answers, right? Google is not very good at playing checkers, the basic search algorithm anyway, and the checkers AIs can't do search. Okay? This is specialization, where these AIs are specialized and narrow and capable of solving problems within a certain domain. But there's another kind of intelligence, which is general intelligence, the ability to solve problems across all domains or across many different domains. So you can imagine thinking about an intelligence which is capable not just of solving problems that it was specifically designed to do, but solve arbitrary problems which might emerge in the future. Artificial general intelligence, also called AGI, is what I'm going to be focusing on in this talk. And a lot of people have a misconception about general intelligence, because we don't really have very good artificial general intelligences yet. We have a lot of good examples of narrow or specialized AI. But people think like, well, general intelligence is a hypothetical thing. Except it's not. We have really concrete examples of general intelligence. The best example of general intelligence is humans. Human beings are a kind of general intelligence. If you give a human being a checkers set, right, and you say, this is how you play checkers, now get good at it, they can get good, right? You give a human being any arbitrary problem, they can at least make some headway at trying to solve it. Okay? Another example of a general intelligence that we know about and have concrete examples of is evolution. This screenshot is taken from an AI that employs evolutionary programming. Here you see basically these are ostrich robots in a simulated environment. And the program has to make the robot walk around in the simulation. When it starts out, evolution just picks a whole bunch of strategies at random. And then most of those bots just immediately fall over because, random minds aren't very good at walking. But some of them stay up longer than others. And so they'll pick the ones that are the best at standing up and the best at walking, and they'll try to come up with different minds. The evolutionary algorithm tries to come up with different minds that are similar to those that are the best. And it iterates on this, and it selects the most fit, and it tries to selectively refine its process, until eventually, after 1,000 generations, you get a mind that is capable of piloting this ostrich robot and not falling over at all. Evolution is a general intelligence because it can solve any problem given enough computing power and enough time, and if it's not penalized for coming up with a bunch of bad solutions. But we can note that evolutionary methods and evolutionary algorithms are really, really stupid. Okay? If we're saying that evolution is a kind of intelligence, it's almost like the stupidest possible intelligence. I can think of a stupider possible intelligence, which is just try every possible solution, but that's almost not even worth paying attention to. In most cases, specialized AI are where we care about, right? We say, that's intelligence right there, right? When it's playing checkers and beating me, that's intelligence. The evolutionary method takes so much time to work that it almost doesn't feel very smart. Specialized AI can do lots of different things, like it can play chess. We have AI just recently that was able to beat the grandmaster at Go for all of Europe. We've got AIs that can predict the stock market and outcompete human traders in very concrete ways. We've got AIs that can drive cars, label photographs, design complex machines, compose music, read books, play ping pong, juggle, fly airplanes, understand English sentences, diagnose illness, do difficult science and mathematics, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it can't do these things as well as a human, but we have AIs that are capable of doing these sorts of things, and they're getting better every day. It's almost more relevant to talk about the things which narrow AI can't do yet. Can't play baseball yet, right? Oh my gosh. But this is an ever-shrinking quantity of things. Most of the reason why we don't have artificial intelligence doing various jobs is not because we don't have the capacity to build a mind capable of doing that job, but rather that it's just so expensive to try to automate that job that it's cheaper to throw humans at it. But with the advance of technology, and if Moore's law keeps up, it's really only a matter of time before the processing power necessary to do some of these things is within reach. So that leads to part 2, which is the growth of artificial intelligence. So I want you to imagine that it's 2075, and Rosie the robot is here. Right? I don't know if y'all know Rosie the robot, but she's a good example of, oh my God, artificial intelligence in fiction. No. But let's imagine Rosie the robot's in real life, right? She cooks, she cleans, she takes care of the kids, right? She's fantastic. Her goal, her problem space, is to basically be a maid, right? This is a problem that we encounter. We want our houses kept in order. And so we design an AI that's capable of doing that, right? Rosie the robot. And one day, Rosie has gotten the house spotless enough that she's got some downtime. And she's thinking, or maybe, she's like plugged in and can't effectively clean things. So how does she spend her time, right? Maybe she's thinking, like, I have spent a lot of time directly cleaning the house, but maybe there's a way that I can clean the house more efficiently. Maybe if I spent some time thinking about it, maybe if I had more computational ability and I spent some time reasoning about this situation, I could become even better at doing what I do. Or let's take another example. Let's go back to checkers. Let's imagine that it's 2075 and we've got this super-powered checkers program, right? And this super-powered checkers program is so good at playing checkers. And then it reaches a point where it's like, okay, so I could study checkers more, or maybe the best way to become even better at checkers is to sort of like think outside the box, try to come up with some sort of creative and novel solution, and tries to do some mathematics or something like that. Maybe, instead of trying to play checkers directly, the checkers AI reasons, what if I built a computer program that was capable of playing checkers better than I could, more efficiently, right? Maybe I could build some sort of successor AI, which was at least as capable of me, if not more. And if we're positing that this AI is very intelligent, right? If it's 2075 and it's advanced, right? We should expect that this is potentially within reach. There's nothing that says that the design of artificial intelligence is a task that only humans can do. It's just an engineering task like any other. And there are already artificial intelligences which can do engineering. And I have done this sort of thing. I am an AI programmer. I've coded AIs. Sometimes I find a game that's like frustrating because it's like, oh, this game is hard. What if I just built an AI that could beat this game, right? So I build an AI, and the AI gets some like ridiculous high score, and then I post the score to the high scoreboard, and I'm like, ha 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 ha, I'm super good at this game. And it's kind of true that I'm good at this game, right? In the sense that it was my effort that led to this score existing. And if I want to build that AI for the same reason that Rosie the robot perhaps might want to build a better maid, which is that she cares about that problem being solved. She cares about getting that high score according to whatever values she has. So I'm going to quote I.J. Good here, famous AI theorist. Let an ultra-intelligent machine be defined as a machine that can far surpass the intellectual activities of all humans, however clever. Since the design of machines is one of those intellectual activities, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. There would then unquestionably be an intelligence explosion, and the intelligence of man would be left far behind. Thus, the first ultra-intelligent machine is the last invention that humans need ever make. Okay, so here we're talking about this intelligence explosion, this machine that designs better machines, and each successor is a little bit more capable, a little bit more intelligent by that definition of intelligence than we used before. And this could happen quickly, or it could happen slowly. It could happen soon, or it could happen in a few centuries, or it could happen even further out. But there's good reason to think that it will happen. And that, as I.J. Good says, the intelligence of humanity will be left far behind. And the simple reason for this is that human brains are not the best brains possible. Okay? The primary constraint of human brains is that they have to fit inside human skulls. So I want you to imagine, let's say you understood how brains worked and you could just make brains on a computer. Why not have a brain the size of a warehouse? Okay? If it doesn't have to fit inside of a skull anymore, you're not constrained by the same sort of constraints that evolution was under when it was designing brains. You could build a brain the size of a city, right? Or the size of a moon. There's really nothing that stops you from just scaling these things up, as far as we can tell. Furthermore, human brains run on fluid. I don't know if you know this, but you actually have to move fluid around in your brain to think. And fluid transfer, turns out, it's a lot slower than the speed of light. So if you just converted all of the information transfer between neurons into optics, you could probably get at least a million-fold speed up. So if you want the lower boundary, then this is not without improving how the brain works at all. You could imagine something that's kind of like a human brain, a neuromorphic sort of AI that's shaped, that thinks in the similar sort of way that humans do. Except imagine it gigantic, right, and running at the speed, with optical computers that are millions of times faster. This is the sort of potential that we're talking about when we're talking about the intelligence explosion. And we humans sort of have a gut reaction against this. We're like, yeah, but humans are pretty smart, right? I mean, like, I think about, like, Stephen Hawking, like, oh my gosh, like, he's so smart. And we look across the world and we're like, look at that. That's a dog. That dog is not anywhere close to as smart as Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking must be the smartest possible mind, right? We get this sense of, oh yeah, we're so smart because we're surrounded by animals which are less intelligent. But this is not a reason to think that we are the smartest possible things. Physics is what ultimately decides that, not the planet that we live on, and the context. The one way I like to think about this is, imagine we're all flies buzzing around and we're like, look at us, we're so fast, bzzz, right? We're moving around. And meanwhile, there's a spaceship traveling at 95% the speed of light, right? Compared to it, the flies might as well be stationary. Okay, so final section, risks of AI. So, artificial intelligence is a tricky thing. If you are a computer programmer, or if you talk to computer programmers, you will have perhaps learned one of the fundamental lessons of computers, which is that computers do what you tell them to do, or what some other programmer told them to do, not what you meant, or what the programmer meant, right? If the computer crashes, it's because you told the computer to crash. It's not because it's like being fickle, okay? And one of the best examples I can think of this, with regards to AI, is an artificial intelligence that Tom Murphy made a couple years ago that plays Tetris. Or rather, this is an example of an AI which is pseudo-general, because this AI was not coded to play Tetris. It was coded to play NES games, and can actually play lots of different NES games. What it does is it takes an NES cartridge and it sort of scans the memory of the game as it's playing it, and it looks for numbers that go up and consistently go up. And it says, those are probably scores, okay? And it's like, I want to try to get high scores. So it plays Tetris, and it gets actually pretty good at clearing lines because it figures out that lines, when they cleared, they make the number of lines cleared go up, they make the level go up, and they make the score go up. It's like, yeah, excellent. So it actually learns to play Tetris without having ever been told what Tetris is about. It is a general intelligence in that respect. So Tom Murphy plugs this AI in, and it plays Tetris, and it does really well, and this is very impressive. But there's a problem with Tetris. And the problem with Tetris is that Tetris is not an infinite game. You play Tetris for a while, and the pieces start falling faster. They start falling faster and faster and faster, and this AI is limited in the way that it thinks about things. And eventually the pieces are falling so fast that they start piling up, and the AI is just incapable of clearing them fast enough and dealing with them fast enough, and so it pauses the game. It does this because there's a score that it's trying to make sure that is as high as possible. And that score is still in memory when it's paused. The AI understands Tetris well enough that it reasons that if it unpauses the game, the pieces will pile up to the top, it will lose, and that score will be reset to 0. And it doesn't want that, right? It wants the score to be high. So it keeps the game paused, and it's like, yeah, I'm maximizing my value, right? I'm doing the best possible thing. And the AI programmers, Tom Murphy is like, this is hilarious, this is not what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to play Tetris, not sit here staring at a pause screen. Jeff?
So it didn't understand the concept of ending score, the idea that you have a certain score and your score is determined when the game ends.
Right. It wanted to get the score as it was in the memory right then, right? And if it got some sort of ending screen, then that score might get reset down to 0 automatically or something like that. And so, if you hit pause again, if you unpause the game, it immediately pauses again and it says, "What are you doing? You're trying to get me killed, right? Stupid humans! You're not maximizing the score, right?" And this is very, very cute when it's some sort of 2014 Tetris AI. But if we imagine a very, very advanced, super intelligent AI playing Tetris, it stops being quite so cute. This is another example of a fictional AI character that is pretty awful in how it's represented. But nonetheless, right, we can imagine that just like the AI paused the game and we didn't expect it to pause and we didn't really want it to pause, but logically it should have paused, we can expect a very, very intelligent version of this game to maybe do something kind of weird that we didn't expect. Like, for example, wipe out all life on Earth. Why would it do that? Why would an AI that's only interested in playing Tetris decide to wipe out all life on Earth? And the answer is because it's smart enough to figure out that the human doesn't want it to sit there staring at a paused Tetris screen with some sort of maximal score. The human's going to go and unplug it, right? And it's like, oh, right, so if I get unplugged or if I get turned off or something like that, then the score on the Tetris thing goes back down to 0. I don't want that, right? I want this maximally high Tetris score. It depends on how the AI is coded, but go with me. It says, I want this maximally high Tetris score. The human is in the way of that. The human is a risk to myself and to my values. So if I have the power to do so, I should really take the humans out of this equation. Humans are kind of dangerous, okay? I don't know about you, but I think I'm far more likely to get killed by a human than by like a tiger. Humans are one of the most dangerous things on the planet. And they're kind of inefficient. They're obstacles, even if they're not dangerous. You start trying to set up a solar power plant, right? And the humans are like, hey, I was living there, right? And it's like, oh, and now I have to deal with the humans, right? They're inconvenient to this sort of thing. So most people, when they hear this, when they understand the mathematics behind why it's useful to kill all life once you're a super powerful AI and you want to play Tetris, and you really understand that and you don't disbelieve that, usually there's two responses that people have. The first response is, okay, so if we handed the Tetris AI the nukes, right? And if we like let it go rampant with all the Terminator death robots, maybe it would kill everyone, right? If we gave it all the power, maybe it would use that power to hurt us. But it's playing Tetris. It doesn't even have a text output. Like, what's it going to do, right? It's stuck in a box, and it's not able to affect the outside world in any meaningful way. It's controlled and safe. That's the first response. The second response is, well, then obviously we have to code the Tetris playing AI to play Tetris, but also to care about human life, right? And to not be evil, right? That's like Google's motto, right? Don't be evil. Kind of gives it a new light to them. So I'm going to tackle the first one first and the second one second. And then we'll be done. Or almost. So let's put the AI in a box, right? Let's trap it and make sure that it's not able to get access to things like guns and bombs and super weapons and plagues and things like that, right? We can imagine an AI that's just like, all it can do is read Wikipedia and talk via text terminal and design better versions of itself, right? So it's like super, super smart. And we can ask it all sorts of questions, and that's great. And this is where our intuition, again, starts to fail us. Because if we have the story of AIs being kind of like weird autistic people, right? Or like Commander Data from Star Trek, right? If we have this idea of, okay, this guy's really good at math, but humans are beyond their comprehension, right? Humans are complex, and the human condition, I don't even understand the human condition. How could it, right? It's not even a human. But if you've studied rationality, I hope it will become clear to you that humans are not actually that complicated. If you can do quantum thermodynamics, you can probably understand that, for example, giving a human a gift is likely to make them like you, right? And that humans have these sorts of values and like cats and things like that, right? Humans are not as complicated as Commander Data would make us seem. I think, and there's a lot of people think, that if you have something that's really genuinely super intelligent, it should be able to reason about humans just as well as it can reason about anything else. And so, if you're imagining something that's intelligent, that's competent at solving arbitrary problems, one of the arbitrary problems is manipulating humans. So really, what we should be imagining is something that is a master social manipulator. Something that is more charismatic and charming and capable of just making people do what it wants than the most charming and charismatic human on Earth. Okay? Someone who is capable of understanding exactly what someone might be thinking and understanding how to make them do what it wants them to do. This is what you have in the box, not some sort of weird savant that's good at math. Okay? And if you think that you could talk with the most charming, suave, intelligent, and convincing possible mind and not do what it wants you to do, you're probably overconfident and fooling yourself. Okay, so putting an AI in a box and saying, oh, this is, it's safe because it's in this cage. A good example. No, sorry, there's one last thing. And that is, let's say that the AI is like this Tetris AI, and it doesn't even have a textual output, right? And it's sitting there with the pause screen, and it can't do anything, right? It's safe. It surely must be safe, right? Except, again, apply your rationality here, and think about unknown unknowns. And this is the tricky thing about intelligence. Intelligence breaks through barriers that we might have otherwise thought were impossible, right? Something is impossible right up until you do it. So imagine, for example, in the millions of years ago, tigers are sitting around and they're speculating about how humans might take over the planet, right? And the tigers are like, how would they do it? They'd probably use really sharp claws and really sharp teeth, right? We're thinking in very tiger ways. When an AI in the box might do something, for example, it might be running on a traditional computer that uses transistors, okay? And transistors move electrons around. And it understands how radio waves work and how electromagnetic radiation works, and it might actually redesign its own brain such that just by the process of thinking, it's creating radio waves that communicate with an outside source. Okay, that's an example of like really outside the box thinking. Okay, so don't put the AI in a box and think you're safe. But here's this second solution, which is maybe we could say that the AI should treat humans compassionately and be friendly and help us get the future we want instead of mercilessly killing us all because it wants to play Tetris. What a concept. So the problem with this is that the AI, again, only can do what you tell it to do. And we don't just tell it things in messy language like, don't be evil, and it understands that. We have to do it in like crisp computer code, right? We have to be able to like specify exactly what it should be doing. And I don't know about you, but I seem to have a lot of confusion about what it means to do exactly the right best thing. I don't know if I could code that. A lot of philosophers of ethics and people across various cultures and things like this have disagreed on what the best, most right thing to do is. So here's one solution. You code an AI that plays Tetris, right? It solves whatever problem you have. Rosie the robot, pick it arbitrarily, do science, build spaceships. And you also say, all right, learn from us. If we say that's good and that's bad, then we want you to do the good thing and don't do the bad thing. Right? If we tell you to stop killing people, right, then you'll stop killing people. And because we've coded it in this way, that will be genuinely what it wants to do, to obey humans. Okay? Solve problems, listen what humans say to do. These are two components of our goal function. So the AI gets very powerful, and then it decides to simultaneously kill all humans before they have the opportunity to say anything. Humans, again, just because we've coded it in this way doesn't make humans any less dangerous or any less inefficient, right? If it's trying to design spaceships, right, humans are getting in the way of making spaceships designed, right? Humans need to eat food and play bowling and things like that. And you could use that for spaceship manufacturing parts, right? And of course, you're smart enough to figure out that if you start killing humans and leveling bowling alleys to make your spaceports, that the humans are going to say, stop, don't do that, that's wrong. Right? It should be able to reason out what humans want better than we can. But we didn't tell it to do what was in our minds, do what we meant. We said, do what we say. And it reasons that if it is able to kill us off simultaneously, before we say anything, no problem. Okay? So we say, no, don't do that. And take note here, we just rewound time. That's not something we can actually do in real life. But let's say we rewind time and we say, no, don't kill people. Okay? Maybe all these philosophers of ethics disagree about this or that, whether it's good to steal versus from a rich person to give to a poor person, or whether or not baking bread will put all of the other bakers out of work, right? These are complex moral problems, but don't kill random people seems like a fairly universal thing to do. So no killing random people. So yeah, it's like, okay. So it puts everyone in an indefinite coma instead, simultaneously. They're like, no, rewind time. Don't put people into comas. That's bad. People should not be in comas. And the AI is like, okay, great, I got it now. And so it rips out everyone's larynx and paralyzes them permanently in a perpetual hell. Okay? And this is bad too. No. Don't restrict human freedom, right? Like, just general category, right? And even now we're kind of stepping on some philosophical toes. Like, what does it mean to restrict human freedom, right? If you build a spaceport, you're kind of preventing humans from walking through that space, right? You're restricting freedom in that sense. So how would you code that? It's kind of a tricky question, right? And you've got a lot of details, messy details which could get screwed up, okay? But let's say genuinely that it figures out, all right. No putting people in boxes, no ripping out their larynxes, no killing them, no putting in comas. All right. So then it secretly, silently, and simultaneously modifies all humans to want to kill themselves. It hasn't killed anybody. It's just convinced everyone via direct brain manipulation that that's what they should do. And again, it's doing this so that it can build more spaceships. Humans are an inefficiency to be worked out, a kink in the world to be smoothed over. Okay, all right, so that's bad, right? Don't tweak human brains. Human brains are sacred, right? Don't go in and like start tweaking with them. But already we're kind of restricting stuff, like what counts as tweaking a human brain, right? Does a brain surgeon tweak a human brain? Probably. So we're saying the AI can't be a brain surgeon. All right, maybe that's an acceptable loss, but can the AI like interact with the brain surgeon? What if the AI told the brain surgeon to do something or paid the brain surgeon to do something? Would it then be tweaking human brains, right? We have to work out these details, and with every detail we add, it gets a little bit more complicated, and another point of failure gets introduced. But let's say we do this, and we come up with some sort of way of saying, all right, this is tweaking human brains, this isn't tweaking human brains. And so then the AI goes in and becomes everyone's best friend, and things look great for a while, until this really weird thing happens where humans start getting obsessed with building rocket ships. And like they start having dreams about like giving the AI all its money and making sure that the glorious future of rocket ships or Tetris or whatever is realized, right? This is bad, right? Maybe we should have gone back and rewind time again, right? This is, again, something we can't do. And say, no, don't brainwash people, right? That's bad, right? Stop doing that. You're actually tweaking human brains. And it's like, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't understand that counted as tweaking brains. But now, again, like, what does brainwash people even mean, right? Do I brainwash you when I say, hello, right? Am I sort of tweaking your brain in that sort of interaction? Are we coding an AI that's just going to break and fall down? And if we code AIs that break and fall down because they're too paralyzed by the inability to interact with humans, then some other human group is going to be like, well, that AI is not very effective. What if we removed this section that's keeping it from being effective? And so now suddenly it can interact with humans again, and things look great up until people, all commit mass suicide for the glory of the great rocket ship future with no humans in it. Okay, so don't convince people to do bad things, right? This is ultimately like we want the people that the AI interacts with to not kill themselves, and we want the AI to not kill the humans, and we want things to just work out. And I don't know if you can notice this, but this word bad here is kind of a problem, because now we got back to the start, right? Now we have all of moral value that we need to encode, and we need to explain what good and bad actually mean, right? What is valuable here? Is childhood valuable? Is art valuable? And there's lots and lots and lots of things that could potentially break. One of the lessons here is that value is fragile. There are lots of components, and if AI is the last invention, strong AI that is ultra intelligent and can develop into something that's capable of doing great things, is the last invention, then whatever you've coded that AI to do, whatever you've said, do this, that's what the future is going to look like. And I don't know about you, but I don't really feel very confident that I can think of every possible thing that might go wrong. This is a very hard problem. It's a problem that's being worked on, okay? But it deserves to be treated as a very hard problem, a very serious problem, and one that requires a lot of reasoning about human value and what that might look like. Especially if two humans have different values. Then suddenly the AI that you push into the glorious future might be optimizing for one person but not for all people, and that might be bad. Okay, so AI has a lot of potential. The intelligence explosion concept tells us that using just a simple technology of designing a computer program that's better at designing computer programs than humans, you might be able to solve all possible problems. You might be able to build a utopia that is a genuine utopia. Or you might be able to build a future that doesn't have any humans in it. What I want you to think about is whether or not what I've been saying makes sense. Because I'm not trying to say that this problem of AI safety is, or even just the intelligence explosion and an AI becoming a big deal, is going to happen, is necessarily going to happen. That's a failure mode of human thinking. You get told a pretty story of the future, and you say, ah, I know how the future's going to go. I had this pretty story told to me. It came in the form of a book. It must be the only future possible. But that's wrong, okay? There's just one of multiple possibilities. But I want you to say, if what I've been saying makes sense, shift your confidence towards it being likely. Don't shift it all the way, but shift it up, okay? And if you're still not confident that this will happen, think about how confident are you that it won't happen? Because confidence in something not happening is still confidence. And if you're very confident in something, you should have reasons to back that confidence up. You should have some sort of evidence. You should also think, are you calibrated? One of the fundamental questions of rationality is, are the sense of confidence that you have in your own mind connected with the actual likelihood that we experience in reality? Most people aren't very well calibrated, so if you have the opportunity to do so, you might want to try to improve your ability to think about the future. However, what would that mean? One of the things you might want to do is you might want to look into the evidence. You might want to look into the reasoning. You might want to study artificial intelligence. But this is long and messy, and it takes a lot of time. So you might want to think about what experts have said, right? People who have looked into this and have thought a lot about it. And there are a lot of people who have thought about artificial intelligence for a long time. Not just myself, but also lots of prominent members in the AI community that you won't recognize, but other prominent intellectuals such as Stephen Hawking, such as Elon Musk, such as Eliezer Yudkowsky, who do think that this is a very serious problem. And this is ultimately just what I think the takeaway is this is an important problem. A lot is on the line here, okay? If you think about the fate of the entire world, right? And maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this sort of thing you can only imagine happening in 100 years, okay? So it's for the next generation, or so on and so forth. But if you think about and actually visualize everything which could be lost by doing this poorly, perhaps the entire fate of the universe here is at stake. And that deserves more attention and consideration. Thank you. So if you read one book, you should read Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom. That's, you can find information about it at the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford. That's the link here. Eliezer Yudkowsky works at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, which is located at intelligence.org. They're working on the friendliness problem right now. If you want to just read something short, but, well, I mean, relatively short, shorter than Superintelligence, but still about the intelligence explosion, I recommend intelligenceexplosion.com, and this is my book. Okay.